Welcome to the Become Who You Are podcast, a production of the John Paul II Renewal Center. I'm Jack Riggert, your host. Thanks for joining us today. I am excited and grateful to be here with my good friend Tom Hampson. We're joined by special guest Tracy Smodilla, who's the campaign manager for PMC, the Parents Matter Coalition here in Illinois. Tracy, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Hey, thanks, Jack. Good to see you, Tom. I appreciate the time to be here today and talk about some pretty serious issues impacting parental rights and our kids.
Yeah, Tracy, it's so good to have you. As you know, Tom and I are battling on your side to protect families and children who are under a vicious attack that is almost beyond the imagination for those of us who grew up in this country. It's rapidly changing before our eyes, and our rights, even as parents, to be involved in decisions affecting our own children is being infringed upon. It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? And the work that you're doing coincides with the work that Tom and I do. And so we've kind of, we're backing you up as much as we can, Tracy. You got a lot of work out there. So tell us a little bit about PMC, Parents Matter Coalition, the work that you're doing. And also we need to collect some signatures. We need to all wake up and we need to do it right now, don't we?
Yeah, you're right, and thank you. So the Parents Matter Coalition is actually a group of, the concept actually came about by a gentleman, the co-founder, Vince Heaton, a dad and a grandfather in Wheaton, a friend of our friend Jeannie Ives, who also lives in Wheaton. Vince was becoming very, very concerned about the impact of government overreach on families, and particularly as it related to the relationship between parents and children. So, we can be very grateful that, what was born of Vince's frustration is he and Jeannie decided that they would talk to other community members and organizations and determine what they could do together to come together, coalesce, and really start to make other people in the community, particular parents, aware of the impact of legislation that's actually been hostile to them and certainly contrary to their own values and in many times their own religious beliefs as well. So this is really in many ways it's a civil rights issue. We've had some hostile legislation that has already been acted and is on the
And
books.
Tracy, just while you're going into that, let's tell people that are listening, because this will go across the country. Let's tell people, we're dealing here specifically in Illinois, but this is going around the country. And so what you're doing here can be, used obviously across the country. And we're seeing our rights look in California, here in Illinois. We're both in the belly of the beast, but there's other states like this. And so while you're specific to Illinois, this is something I think we all need to be aware of. But tell them a little bit about Illinois, because we're really looking for voters in Illinois. Anyways, I know you're going to get into that, but just to clear that up.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the Parents Matter Coalition is a 501(c)(4) organization, and its mission is to educate, engage, empower parents so that they can, one, have a better understanding of how we got to this place, but two, give them a place where they can actually start to take action. We have seen, many, many times that, people have, they're anxious, they see that something is wrong, and they're on the sidelines, they want to do something. And with the Parents Matter Coalition, they can come and they can get, really good information, so that they can speak intelligently about not just the issues, but how they're impacting their families. But it's the inaugural project that's really important right now, especially here in Illinois. We have what's called the Right to Parent ballot initiative that is in progress. And what that means is that we are collecting 500,000 valid petition signatures from registered Illinois voters around the state that asks a very simple question about parents' rights for their minor children, especially as it relates to healthcare, and specifically because of the laws that we have in Illinois. It specifically addresses the issue of parental consent and knowledge for services like abortion care and gender affirming services. So county by county, community by community. We are collecting signatures, and with those signatures, we will be able to have a ballot advisory question. This is a question of public policy, and really the one that is probably the best gauge of public opinion on parental rights in Illinois. That will be on the November 2024 ballot.
Okay, so we're out gathering signatures right now, and this is an easy thing to do. And Tom, I want to bring you in here too because I know you're following some of the bills that are going on in Illinois right now. You again, you can't make this stuff up, but we need 500,000 signatures. And Tom, why don't you address that a little bit? And the idea that we need to all step up to the plate here. I mean, if there's any decency left in us to protect children and our country for our children, and just to step up and not allow people to take the rights away from parents. I don't. You got to shed some light on this because you've been investigating this kind of stuff and crime and undercover for child porn and child sex. You know all the pain that's in here, and now that to try to take away parents who are trying to protect their children from some of this is unbelievable.
Well, one of the most horrendous bills that's just been introduced by Ann Stavra Murray is one that would um, make it child abuse if a parent refuses to allow their child to have gender affirming care or refuse to allow them to have an abortion. Uh, Now, gender affirming care is not just hey, oh yeah, you're really a girl, not a guy, but it includes hormone therapy, possible surgery. This is just unbelievable that somebody would introduce this and have the state decide for the parent whether a child should be raised as a boy or as a girl, or whether they raised as what they were born biologically, or whether they are going to be raised as something different. And it's not just male or female anymore. There's multiple different genders. So gender affirming care could mean a lot of different things. Um, and also in this bill is about has to do with child abuse if you don't provide your child medical care. Well, the kind of medical care a parent decides to provide is important. Why would you allow a child to make the decision of what kind of care they're going to get? So there's a bill like that. There have been already bills that have been put in place where uh, uh, restrooms are open to anybody in schools. These are the kinds of things that trample on parents' rights to guide the upbringing of their child. Eventually, I'm sure many of these bills are going to be overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, but that's going to take years. In the meantime, there's going to be a great deal of damage. I don't see how anybody in this modern age can could get behind that Stavra Murray's bill. These are the same people who came out in mass, almost universally in this country, several years ago to condemn genital mutilation of girls. Well, this is nothing but genital mutilation for boys and girls that are being directed by the boys and girls themselves, rather than allow the parents to have some kind of guidance over it. And the state is fully behind it. The state pays for it, and parents are going to be punished if they take the position they don't want their child to be mutilated. And parents are simply unaware of all this stuff that's going on and how children are being recruited recruited into these aberrant lifestyles and encouraged to experiment with their sexuality even at a very young age. This is wrong. And any parent knows that it's wrong, but they're just not aware that it's happening. And it's going to happen to their child or certainly somebody that they know.
So Tracy, speak to that. Thank you, Tom. Tracy, speak to this question that's going on the ballot because this is a question. Can you, should you be notified if the school system, et cetera, is looking to do anything that Tom has just been opening up there. So talk to that so people know exactly what we're looking for on the ballot. This is very easy for us to share, isn't it, Tracy, with one another?
Absolutely. So yeah, so it's really it's the question on the ballot is very, very simple. It's like, shall the written consent of a parent or a legal guardian be required prior to any child receiving non-emergency medical care, including gender affirming care? So that's the encapsulation of it, but it's a very common sense question. And if you Tom referred to some of the more egregious bills that again are again widening that schism in the parent-child relationship. Certainly, the most recent bill is poised to redefine what child abuse looks like, and essentially turning people in the community into snitches on parents. I'm very concerned about that in my profession in healthcare. I would be required, if I had a child presenting to me and saying that, I really want gender affirming services, but my parents are saying no, I would be required by this bill, if it's enacted, to report those parents to the state.
Mm.
That's so again, we need to really dig into this. But if we look at legislation that's already on the books that's doing that, in 2021, JB Pritzker and his administration repealed the Parental Notification Act for abortion. That's a law that had been in the works since 1995. So they overturned an almost 40-year law that would notify parents if a child was seeking abortion services. Our children are now at the age of 12 years old. They are given full legal consent and privacy to their own medical records. So a 12-year-old has to give their parents permission before they can actually see what's going on inside their medical files. We've got the youth, the Youth Mental Health Act, again, where a parent can't seek alternative counseling for a confused child.
You know,
So so
Tracy,
we've got there's an avalanche of legislation that's been enacted. We're getting hit from both sides on that now, from culture, from our government, that is again criminalizing the community, separating the children from us. And I believe this is very intentional. I don't say this lightly when and I think historians would agree with me, but this is 1936 Germany all over again.
yeah, and
It-
we see this all the time. Tom and I just standing up at school boards speaking about these issues. And the attacks that you get, from the officials and stuff is incredible. Can you imagine how emboldened they'll be if some of these laws that we're talking about here that are not implemented so far are implemented? I mean, Tom, can you imagine that we're not going to be able to speak anymore?
Oh,
Anything we say is going to be considered
yeah.
sexual abuse. And this is going to be for every parent with their child. You know, parents are being taken out of their home. Children are being taken out of their parents' home in California right now. I mean, this is
Oh,
we're
it just happened in
a baby
Montana.
step. Yeah, and in Montana too. And who would ever believe that the governor of Montana wouldn't try to protect him? So look at we all got to stand up. This is definitely a grassroots thing. The people in charge today, we've allowed this to happen. We all looked the other way. We allowed the experts to do this. And I think, from a moral standpoint, we've allowed the activists that are on the other side of these issues to push their way into offices. And we see this all the way across the country in the school, all the way down to school boards and library boards. Tracy, we got our work cut out for us. And I think your question is the right one because look if we wake people up, right? And that's what Tom and I always try to do with stolen innocence of children, trying to wake people up. And look they can argue about it, but I'd rather have them arguing about it than putting their head in the sand.
Well, you raise a really good point about arguing about it. And if nothing else, this question is, again, it seems to be very benign, but it's provocative in many ways as well, because it is offering a question that is it's making more people aware that we've got a problem. And I think the majority of people just assumed that parents had rights over their children's health care. They assumed that these kids were getting the right kind of care when they're in the custody of their public school system. So a couple of things. One, now they realize that we've reached a critical point. We're allowing for really honest discussion about bills that have passed and their impact. And now we're talking about how we can stop hostile legislation, specifically House Bill 4876, as introduced by Representative Stava Murray. What I've found in the community over the last several months, particularly as I'm out doing outreach into the Black and the Latino communities, is that there is a lack of understanding about how government actually works with them and for them. I'm really, really blessed to have a phenomenal group of Latino women who are working very diligently up in the northwest suburbs. We gathered on Tuesday night for, we were getting some literature ready to go out. We were talking about how to present the right to parent question to their communities. And then we took some time to actually open up bill number 4874, I'm sorry, 4876. And I showed them how to read pieces of legislation
Mm.
as introduced or as enacted. And when they started to look at the enacted bills, for example, they were shocked to know that leaders in their community who they trusted had actually betrayed them. They didn't realize that these were legislators that were really, talking a good game in a town hall or in a public forum or in the material that they would mail to their homes. But when these families actually looked at the legislation that had been sponsored, co-sponsored, or voted upon by their leaders, there were audible gasps when they started to read those names. And then there was grief. Many of them felt responsible that we got this far because they didn't understand what was going on in our own legislation. Very busy
What?
families, and sometimes it's difficult to really take an interest in that until it's on your doorstep.
Well, and the news media doesn't do a very good job of informing people about that either. You take a look at this that Stavra Murray bill, and what parent wants that to happen? What parent really would want that bill to go through? You don't hear very much about it. You haven't heard anything about it in the mainstream. You've heard some things about it in the conservative outlets, but they don't have nearly the range of voice that the rest of the community or the rest of the media has. I haven't heard anything on it on ABC, NBC, CBS, local news about this. Why wouldn't that be widely publicized?
Yeah, that's a great point, and we're going to have to make sure, Tracy, that we get links to you, and get links to to be so people can go to you and find this information. I know you have a website put up just for these kind of issues. Maybe even send me a link to that bill so people can just start to look at some of these things. We need to be able to trust voices, and I think here in Illinois, for certainly, we're going to look to Parents Matter Coalition to be one of those voices to help inform us. Tom is with Illinois Family Institute, another great voice, and they're backing you up, as are so many of the groups that I'm working with. Let me just read that bill. It says this. This is how simple it is for people listening to share this with people, and we have to get a link, Tracy, to you so that we can print off these petitions, right, for signature petitions, so people can start to circulate this. We're doing it in our churches. People are grabbing these in the churches that I'm visiting. People are grabbing these once you read this. So all I'm saying to people, look at whether you've been involved in politics or not. This is a simple question going on the ballot here in Illinois. And here it is, shall the written consent from a minor's parent or guardian be required before any entity, person, clinic, or school can provide a minor under the age of 18 any non-emergency medical procedure, medication, pharmaceutical, or any gender modification procedure, gender identification counseling, or gender therapy? This is a question, yes or no. And so the idea behind it is wherever you stand on these issues, it doesn't, that's not the important thing. It should a parent be notified. I don't care what side of the issue you're on. A parent who is a parent must know that they are the primary educators of their children, and they must be notified. This is a simple question to me to put on a ballot.
Well, and I'd like to make an emphasis on the fact that that we're talking about minor children, children that are under 18 and under the age of consent. We've got some pretty bizarre bills in Illinois. I mean, if you're anybody that's 14 years old or younger is required to have parental consent before they get their ears pierced. A child under the age of 18 years old can't be on the premises of a tattoo parlor. Not that the child would be prosecuted, but the tattoo parlor would be shut down. So if the state of Illinois is concerned whether or not a child 14 years and younger is seeking to have her earlobes pierced so that she can wear earrings, or a young man or a young woman is considering a tattoo on their ankle, how in the name of our God are we going to permit basically government sanctioned butchering of children?
It's almost beyond the imagination. Tom, speak to that a little bit, because I mean, that's, you speak about this age of reason all the time when we're giving presentations.
It's well known that the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. So the problem is that they're trying to make children have rights to make decisions for themselves at an earlier and earlier age. Internationally, there's this movement to say that children have a right to engage in sex whenever they want to, that they have that. And so that's where a lot of this gender affirming care and the abortion, the right to get an abortion stems from, because children have a right to make decisions about their own body just as though they're an adult. Well, we know this not to be true. We know that the younger a child is, the less ability they have to make real decisions, and the more they're able to be easily manipulated by other smarter, more experienced people. And so that, and these legislators are not looking out. And one of the things you mentioned earlier was that the government is working for us. Well, it's been a long time since our government has worked for us. I mean, this is all over the country. It's happening where the government thinks we work for them. There's also another bill that's been introduced here in Illinois that makes LGBTQ teaching in religious classroom a requirement disguised as an anti-bullying effort. So they're even trying to pass a law now to make it that churches have to teach, religious education facilities have to teach about the whole LGBTQ in an approved manner, so that is to protect children from being bullied.
As someone that goes with the John Paul II Renewal Center and speaks to young people all the time, teens, they're anxious, they're depressed, they talk about suicide. Look at this is a battle right now. And this is a battle between good and evil. There's no other way to look at it. Tracy, to your point, you can't get your ears pierced, you can't get a tattoo, but yet we can put you on puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and actually take you in for an operation, a surgical procedure to mutilate your body. I mean, it's beyond comprehension, and the only way to understand it is really a spiritual evil attack. And we've seen this, like you said, we've seen this with the communist revolutions. You throw out God, you throw out. And what do you do next? You attack marriage and the family, because when you attack marriage and the family, you weaken the society, you weaken our civilization. Everybody falls under the power of the government, and this is what you're seeing. So again, getting back to what you're doing here, we have to stand up, and you're making it easy for people to do this, aren't you, Tracy?
We are. We have a website. It's Parents Matter Coalition. I'm sorry, yeah, parentsmattercoalition.org. And there our volunteer circulators can download a petition. They can download an 8.5 by 11 flyer that gives them really good information on how to start their signature collecting campaign. There's tips on how to do that. The actual question, as it will appear on the ballot, is on that. And on the back side of that flyer are QR codes and just top lines on the enacted legislation that we see today, and then articles that actually underpin the concerns that we have. And these are very well cited articles that talk about the I would call it the transgender empire and the government used as an apparatus to promote this and extend the actual agenda. But briefly, I just want to go back to two things that you gentlemen talked about. Was Tom, you referenced the child brain not fully developing, and Jack, you referenced the incidence of kids that are coming in with anxiety and depression. I think that there's this movement to continue to foment very, very deliberate chaos in our kids. And again, we've referenced this being a spiritual battle. I agree. We know that Satan is he is the prince of chaos. These kids are living with a lot of chaos rattling around in their brains, and it makes them easy targets. They become prey for those who could exhibit what's called the power differential over them. We see in public schools that now counselors' offices or teachers' offices are becoming quote safe unquote spaces. We see the public school system using non-regulatory guidance in 852 school districts in the state of Illinois that is basically laying out a blueprint for what is called gender and non-binary affirming care, where they are encouraging students to live one life while they're in school and do that safely under the guidance of school teachers and counselors. But when they go home, they go home and they live the life as the child that they were born to by their parents with that name. I received a document from a
every hold that thought now. The next thought. I mean, everybody needs to sit on what you just said. I mean, you really need to sit on what you just said. It's amazing to me, again, that we're using children as pawns in this spiritual warfare. And again, I just can't plead enough with parents to wake up and start to move out into this space. Just use your voice to at least ask your neighbor to sign a petition like this. It'll give you this baby step. What you've done, Tracy, with this question, whether this was one of the reasons behind it or not, I know there was multiple reasons that you framed this question this way, and you're putting a question on the ballot. But what it's done, it's given people that feel like they need to do something a very easy way to do it, because we're just asking the question. And at the end of the day, children are being used as pawns in a very evil game, and they're there to separate parents and their children. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but people really
Not
need
at
to
all.
dwell on this. This is nefarious.
I just have a question. One of the things that strikes me about this issue and always has with Jack and me is that this is not a partisan issue.
Mm.
Every people from all sides should be on board with protecting their own children, having rights to decide the upbringing of their child. How successful have you been in attracting people from across party lines?
That's a great question, in that there are there are, and again, I don't want to divide these people into, red or blue political categories, but certainly I think this is a values proposition in many ways. We've got people from the faith community, people from the Right to Life community, Moms for America, organizations that really promote family values. But what is also very interesting is that there are organizations that, and they describe themselves as being radical feminist organizations. There are some issues that we don't agree upon. Our family is Right to Life, and they still believe in a woman's right to choose whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. But what they do stand very firmly on is protecting children as they are biologically born. They're especially concerned about the erasure of women. And they also believe that gender affirming care and abortion services are for adults. They are aghast that, again, these kids are being, as you rightly put, Jack, they're being used as pawns in a very, very dangerous game. These women, again, they don't want to see their sons and daughters being affirmed. They don't want to see children being separated from them and having the government make decisions on their behalf. And they certainly don't want to see men participating in their daughters' sports, particularly when while they call themselves radical feminists, they do emphasize and recognize the necessity for male and female. They just happen to be the ones out there really protecting feminism on the front lines.
Yeah. We're going to start to wind up here because Tracy's on on a schedule here. She's got a lot going on. Tracy, you want to touch on any of that? And Tom, if you have any follow-up comments too. But before Tracy, I know you're traveling now. How can people support you in your traveling? And any last bit of advice? I'm wondering as you were speaking too, if somebody needed to talk to somebody that wanted to get involved, we're going to direct them to your website. Is there if they had more questions and they wanted to speak to somebody, I know you got to be too busy for this. Do you have anybody there in the answering phones or, to help answer some of this stuff? I
Yeah,
wish
well,
I could help you, but I got some crazy stuff going myself, right?
no, there's a couple of things. When people go to our website, again, that's parentsmattercoalition.org, a few things they can do. There's an abundance of resources available to them, so they can click on those links, and I'll send those to you as well, Jack.
Yes. Okay, good.
These are the bills, the enacted bills, and articles. People can download the petition. They can download that flyer that I just mentioned. But if they have a question, and again, we'd like to know that you are out there circulating the petition and having those conversations in the community. So we're asking folks to register. There they have and when they provide just their email, their phone number, a good time to reach them. Just in their question, send that. I will reply. It may take me a day or so, but I will get back to them. Another way we're raising awareness in the community, we do have a press tour coming up starting on Monday in the city of Chicago. Strike that. It's a rally and a press tour. So at 10 a.m. we're gathering at a church in the Belmont Cragen neighborhood in Chicago. The next day we will be in Springfield for both press conference and a rally. That evening in Moline, Illinois. The following day in Rockford. And stay tuned. We may be back on the south side of Chicago next Wednesday evening. We're just pending confirmation. All of that information will be posted to our website, and we'll be pushing that information out regularly over the next couple of days to those who have enrolled at our website, registered at our website, because then we'll have their email address and we can get information to them more expediently.
Okay, great. Great. And Thomas, any last question or comment as we're winding down here?
Oh, I just God bless your work. I hope you can start bringing people from all different sectors of our society in to sign these petitions, because I don't think this is a partisan issue. I think parents need to become more aware and involved in guiding their children's upbringing, which is being taken away systematically by the people we are electing to office.
Yeah, and I would just add, Tom said, God bless your work. And I would just reframe that just a little bit, Tom, if you don't mind, is if you're here in Illinois, God bless our work with, with the Parents Matter Coalition, and take up this cross just like it's your deal, that it all depends on you, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. I love G.K. Chesterton, and, he was asked what was wrong with Christianity, and he wrote back, I am. I am.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's true. What's wrong with it? I am. We allow these things to go on. We don't do anything about them. And here's a wonderful way to get involved again, very easily to do this. And who knows? Maybe they'll put you on a path that you'll get fired up and do some great things for marriage and family, for the protection of our basic rights for our country going forward. So God bless you, Tracy. Thank you so much. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you on again.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
I think particularly since we are of faith, we move forward in faith. There may be some out there that haven't found a personal relationship with Christ. Perhaps they're seeking. I would ask them, even if you are not of faith, I want you to think about this issue, and I want you to think about your future self in 15 minutes. As you're pondering whether or not to take action on the right to parent ballot initiative, ask yourself, if you took action and you collected a handful of signatures over 15 minutes, how are you going to feel at the end of those 15 minutes? But if you continued to sit on the sidelines and wring your hands over this issue and do nothing, how are you going to feel in 15 minutes after 15 minutes of inaction?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great way to put it. And there is something inspiring as you step into the arena and you start to battle against evil, and and while you're doing that, you bring good into the world, and you'll feel that in your own heart.
Amen.
So that's a great point. Hey, God bless you. God bless everybody. Thanks for everybody for being with us today. We
Thanks for the
appreciate your time.
opportunity.